Most people think they'll only figure out they bought a lemon after the inspection, after moving in, or after stuff starts breaking. But the truth is, you can usually spot a bad house within the first 60 seconds. And in a market like Vancouver, where you're dropping serious cash for detached homes and duplexes in areas like Mount Pleasant, Maine, Cambie, and Kitsilano, missing these signs isn't just a tiny slip up. It can turn into a massive headache over time. And the biggest catch is that buyers walk into homes based on the aesthetic, and they get distracted by the staging, lighting, renos, and how the place feels. And they totally ignore the basics that actually decide whether the home is a solid investment or a future nightmare. What I want to do here is flip how you walk into a property, so instead of seeing what looks pretty, you immediately catch what could go south. Start outside. The first 10 seconds matter more than you think. Before you even step foot inside the home, you're already picking up some of the most vital info. And this is where most folks rush. When you pull up, you need to take a step back and really check the scene. What is the street like? Is it quiet, or are you right by a busy road that's going to be loud 24/7? Are there shops nearby, back alleys with heavy traffic, or anything that can mess with your daily life? In Vancouver, where blocks change fast, this matters more than people think. Then look at the handy side: parking, driveway space, and how the property actually works. If you have friends over, where are they parking? And if it's tight now, it's going to be annoying later. You also want to watch nearby homes. If the neighbors' places are trashed, messy, or ignored, that's not something you can fix later. That becomes just part of your world. Then look up at the house itself. The roof, it's one of the first pricey items you should be eyeing. Missing shingles, sagging spots, moss growth, trees overhanging. Those are all clues that you could be facing big repairs pretty soon. And if you're already seeing several red flags before you've even gone inside, that's your hint to slow down and start questioning everything. Circle the place thoroughly. This is where problems hide. Once you start walking around the outside of the home, this is where you're hunting for the stuff that can cost you huge money. The foundation is a great place to start. Tiny cracks can be normal, but big cracks, flat lines, or spots that have clearly been filled should immediately jump out at you. That's not something to ignore or hope is fine. You want to know what caused it and if it's still a mess. Another thing you want to watch out for is water. Water is the biggest enemy of any house. And in Vancouver, with all the rain we get, it's even more vital. If you see pooling water, soggy grass, or ground that tilts towards the home instead of away, that's a red flag. Drainage hiccups can lead to basement dampness, mold, and long-term structural issues. These are the kind of bugs that don't just vanish, they get worse over time and get way more expensive to fix. And you are also eyeing things like trees, bushes. If trees are too close to the house, that can lead to root trouble, foundation stress, and roof damage. It might look nice for now, but it can turn into a costly mess later on. The first thing you should do is scan the floors. Hardwood could tell you a lot. If you see stains, buckling, soft spots, or marks, that could mean water leaks or the house is shifting. If a home has tile and you see lots of cracks or broken bits, that's not a quick fix. Swapping tile, especially over big areas, can be super expensive. Then look up. Ceilings and walls are where you'll catch signs of old or current drama. Watermarks, weird patches, or big cracks can mean leaks or structural woes. Some tiny cracks can be normal with age, but anything big should raise eyebrows. The trick here is to stay picky. Don't let how the home feels drown out what you're actually seeing. Windows, systems, and the boring stuff that really matters. Once you've checked the obvious items, you need to pivot to the things that aren't as fun, but matter way more for your wallet. Windows are a perfect example. If they were old, stuck, or single pane, that's a sign they'll likely need to go. And in Vancouver, where staying warm matters, that's not a small tweak, it's a major bill. Then you check the mechanical gear, the furnace, the water, the AC. It should all be on your radar. A water heater usually lasts about 10 years, so if it's already there, you'll likely be swapping it soon after moving in. The same goes for heating. If it looks beat up, rusty, ancient, that's a sign you can be dealing with bugs sooner than you'd like. The electrical panel is another big one that people skip. If it looks old, crowded, messy, that's not just a tiny issue. It can be a safety risk and a pricey fix. These are the things that don't pop up on listing photos, but have a huge impact of your total cost of owning the place. Basements, dampness, and the silent killers. If a home has a basement, especially in Vancouver, this is an area where you'll need to be really careful. Moisture issues can be sneaky, but they can also be some of the priciest problems to fix. If you notice dehumidifiers running, funky smells, or any water lines on the walls, that's telling you there likely has been water in that space. Even if it's not currently wet, that doesn't mean it hasn't been or won't be again. Finished basements can even be trickier because they can hide these headaches. Everything might look clean and new, but that doesn't mean actual problem is solved. And this is where you'll have to stay skeptical and not assume a pretty finish means a solid base. Bad renos can be worse than no renos. One of the most ignored risks when buying a home is cheap renovations. A lot of buyers see updated and immediately figure that's a win, but that's not always true. If you start seeing messy tile work, poorly hung lights, loose cabinets, or anything that looks rushed, that should be a red flag because the visible work is sloppy. And there's a good chance the hidden stuff behind the walls wasn't done right either. Sometimes a home that hasn't been touched is actually safer than one that has been badly flipped, because at least you know what you're facing. With bad rentals, you often get stuck with someone else's shortcuts and paying to fix them later. Don't believe everything you hear. A lot of buyers lean hard on the seller disclosures, thinking everything they need to know will be right there. And while disclosures help, they are not something you should totally bank on. Not everything gets listed, and not everything is always caught or explained clearly. If something feels off or you see something doesn't add up, you need to ask around and dig deeper. Blind trust is how people end up with nasty surprises after they get the keys. Look, this isn't about finding perfect. It's about dodging disasters. And at the end of the day, buying a home, especially in Vancouver, isn't about finding the perfect place. Every home is going to have some flaws. The goal here is to skip the big problems that can cost you time, cash, and stress later on. If you walk into a place and within the first few minutes you are already seeing several red flags, it's not a fluke. The house is talking to you, and the biggest blunder you can make is ignoring those signs because you like the layout, the finish, or the overall aesthetic. Because once the deal is done, you are the one stuck with that choice. So take your time, stay objective, and teach yourself to look past the surface. Because in a market like Vancouver, the buyers who win aren't the ones who fall in love the fastest. They are the ones who know exactly what to walk away from. And I'd love to hear your questions in the comments.